Hey, what's up, everybody? We're going to continue on here with Chapter 12 of An Esoteric Cosmology by Rudolf Steiner. The website I'm using is rsarchive.org. They've got a pretty good collection of Rudolf Steiner's works. And real quick, I just want to throw this out there for anybody that's listening. If you've got any ideas on what you'd like to hear next, go ahead and throw some of that down into the comment section. I'd love to hear what everybody wants to hear next. I kind of have this vision of what I'd really like to do is build an esoteric study group where I can cover several books, maybe even get into some lectures and stuff like that. And then we can have a lot of interaction in the comment section or, even over Zoom calls or, whatever the case may be. I'd like to actually, if possible, I'd like to grow it. You see, I never really thought I would really be able to grow like a channel on esoterics and stuff like that. I mean, there's some out there that are pretty good, and I know there's a lot of people becoming more and more interested in it. But I mean, just over the last month, my subscribers have jumped up like 30 subscribers, which is like not much. I mean, at all. I've got like 71 subscribers. I never thought I'd have that many. I was stuck on 28 for a very long time, and the goal has never really been to really do that. It's more about just spreading the word and getting this information out. But if we could build an esoteric study group where we're just all learning together, I've got no desire to be like some guru or something like that. But what I would enjoy is building a community of people who just want to learn and who want to stick as close to the true stream of esoteric philosophy as they can, and to learn where this stuff really comes from. So that'd be cool. What would you guys like to hear, though? And coming up on like 100 subscribers, hey, I figure, that'll be a pretty cool milestone. I never thought I'd even get close to that. So maybe I'll do like a little giveaway. I've got some really cool like Manly P. Hall pamphlets and stuff like that I've got some doubles of. Hey, I might just give some of those away when we hit 100 subscribers. And let me know what types of stuff. See, I've got lined up here. I've got one, Rosicrucian Wisdom by Rudolf Steiner, which I think will be a really good one. I think people will really like that one. I want to try to stick to ones that aren't already online, because there's a lot of them. If you just go to Rudolf Steiner Press Audio channel on YouTube, there's tons of them there, and I highly suggest that channel, because if you're looking for a Steiner audiobook, that's the place to go right there. There's so many of them. I haven't found the one I'm reading right now. I haven't found that one online, so that's the reason I'm reading it. I also haven't found Rosicrucian Wisdom online read anywhere. That might be the one I cover next, but I've also got some Manly P. Hall ones, How to Understand Your Bible, A Philosopher's Interpretation of Obscure and Puzzling Passages. That's another one that's very interesting. And it just depends on you guys, honestly. If I get some feedback, then maybe you can steer me in a direction. Otherwise, I'll just pick one and just continue. I've also got a lot of Masonic stuff. The Masonic tradition comes right out of, obviously the esoteric tradition. It is a modern day mystery school, like the Egyptian mysteries, like the Greek mysteries, on and on. It is of the direct lineage of those schools. So I've got a lot of Masonic stuff I could cover, a lot of Rosicrucian stuff, a lot of Manly P. Hall, a lot of alchemical stuff. You guys just let me know what you want to hear next, and we'll make something happen. All right, let's get into this. Chapter 12, The Devaconic World, Heaven, Part 2. Devacon, the abode of the gods, corresponds to the heaven of the Christians, the spiritual world of the occultist. These regions of existence are beyond the range of our physical senses, although they are intimately connected with this world. In attempting to describe them, we must have recourse to allegories and symbols. The words of human language are only adapted to express the world of sense. There are 7 distinct stages or degrees of Devacon. The 7 stages are not definite localities, but conditions or states of the life of the soul and spirit. Devacon is everywhere present. It envelops us as does the astral world, only it is invisible. By dint of training, the initiate acquires, one by one, the faculties necessary for beholding it. At the first stage of clairvoyance, greater order enters into dreams. Man sees marvelous forms and hears words that are pregnant with meaning. It becomes more and more possible to decipher the meaning of dreams and to relate them to actuality. We may dream, for example, that a friend's house is on fire, and then hear that he is ill. The first faint glimpses of Devacon give the impression of a sky streaked with clouds which gradually turn into living forms. At the second stage of clairvoyance, dreams become precise and clear. The geometrical and symbolic figures employed as the sacred signs of the great religions are, properly speaking, the language of the creative world, the living hieroglyphs of cosmic speech. Among such symbols are the cross, the sign of life, the pentagram or 5-pointed star, the sign of sound or word, the hexagram or 6-pointed star, 2 interlaced triangles, the sign of the macrocosm reflected in the microcosm, and so forth. At the second stage of clairvoyance, these signs, which we today delineate in abstract lines, appear full of color, life, and radiance on a background of light. They are not as yet the garments of living beings, but they indicate, so to say, the norms and laws of creation. These signs were the basis of the animal forms chosen by the earliest initiates to express the passage of the sun through the zodiacal constellations. The initiates translated their visions into such signs and symbols. The most ancient characters employed in Sanskrit, Egyptian, Greek, and runic scripts, every letter of which has ideographic meaning, were the expressions of heavenly ciphers. At this stage of seership, the disciple is still at the threshold of Devacon. His task is to penetrate into Devacon, to find the path leading from the astral world to the first stage of the Devaconic world proper. This path was known to all the occult schools, and even during the first centuries, Christianity contained esoteric teaching of which traces can be found. The ancient methods of initiation, however, were abandoned from the beginning. In the Acts of the Apostles, mention is made of Dionysius the Areopagite. He was an initiated disciple of St. Paul and taught an esoteric Christianity. Later on, at the court of Charles the Bald in the 9th century, John Scotus Erigena again taught the esoteric doctrines. Esoteric Christianity was then gradually obscured by dogma. When the initiate has penetrated into Devacon, however, he finds that the descriptions given by Dionysius of this world are correct. The rhythmic breathing practiced in yoga was one of the methods by means of which man was enabled to penetrate the world of Devacon. A certain sign that this entrance has been made is a conscious experience indicated in Vedic philosophy by the words Tat Twam Asi, thou art that. In dream, man beholds his own bodily form from without. He sees his body stretched on the couch, but merely as an empty sheath. Around this empty form shines a radiant, ovoid form, the astral body. Excuse me. It has the appearance of an aura from which the body has been eliminated. The body itself seems like a hollow, empty mold. It is a vision where everything is reversed, as in a photographic negative. The soul of crystal, plant, and animal is seen as a kind of radiation, whereas the physical substance appears as an empty sheath. But it is only the phenomena of nature that so appear, nothing that has been made by the hands of men. At the first stage of Devacon, we are contemplating the astral counterparts of the phenomena of the physical world. This region has been spoken of as the continents of Devacon, the negative forms of the valleys, mountains, and physical continents. If he enters into deep meditation while the breath is held, man reaches the second stage of Devacon. The molds which represent physical substance are seen to be filled with spiritual currents, the currents of universal life, or of life universal, rather. This is the ocean of Devacon. At this stage, the initiate enters the wellspring of all life. This life has the appearance of a network of vast streams with their tributaries. At the same time, there is a strange and new experience of living within the metals. Reichenbach, the author of LOD, not sure how to pronounce that, Load, speaks of this phenomenon in connection with sensitive subjects who were able to detect different metals wrapped in paper. The beings living in the region which becomes perceptible at the second stage of clairvoyant vision are called by Dionysius the Areopagite the archangels. In German, Erzengel, Erz equals ore, or mineral. They represent the living soul of the minerals. To attain the third stage of Devacon, thought must be freed from bondage to the things of the physical world. Man can then live consciously in the world of thought, quite independently of the actual content of thought. The pupil must experience the function of pure intellect, apart from its content. A new world will then be revealed. To the perception of the continents and waters of Devacon, in parentheses, the astral soul of things and the streaming currents of life, will be added the perception of its air or atmosphere. This atmosphere is altogether different from our own. Its substance is living, sonorous, sensitive. Waves, gleams of light and sound arise in response to our gestures, acts, and thoughts. Everything that appears on earth reverberates in colors, light, and sound. Whether it be in sleep or after death, the echoes of earth can be experienced in these airs of Devacon. It is possible, for example, to experience the effects of a battle. We do not actually see the battle, nor hear the cries of the soldiers and the booming of the cannons. Strife and passions appear in the form of lightning and thunder. Thus Devacon does not separate us from earth, but reveals it to us from outside, as it were. We do not experience sorrow and joy as if they were arising in ourselves. We behold them objectively, as a spectacle. Devacon is a school of apprenticeship where we learn to regard sorrows and joys from a higher point of view, where we strive to transmute suffering into joy, failures into renewed efforts, death into resurrection. This has nothing in common with the passive contemplation and the more or less egotistic bliss of heaven conceived by certain writers on religion, who think that the sufferings of the damned are part of the bliss of the elect. Devacon is a living heaven, where the overwhelming urge to sympathy and action contained in the human soul is faced with a boundless field of activity and a vista of infinity. At the fourth stage of Devacon, the archetypes of things arise, not the negatives, but the original types. This is the laboratory of the cosmos wherein all forms are contained, whence creation has proceeded. It is the home of the ideas of Plato, the realm of the mothers, of which Goethe speaks in Faust in connection with Helena. In this realm of Devacon, the Akashic Record of Indian philosophy is revealed. In our modern terminology, we speak of this record as the astral impression of all the events of the world. Everything that passes through the astral bodies of men is fixed in the infinite subtle substance of this record as in a sensitive plate. To understand the images which hover in the astral nimbus of the earth, we must have recourse to analogies. The human voice pronounces words which set up waves of sound, penetrating by the ears into the brains of others, where images and thoughts are evoked. Each of these words is a wave of sound with an absolutely definite form, which, if we could see it, is distinct from all others. Let us imagine these words congealing somewhat as water congeals into ice by sudden intense cold. In such a case, the words would descend to earth as congealed air, and we could recognize each word by its form. All right here, I just want to interject real quick. Think of the, what are they called? The experiments they do where you take the sand or the salt and put it on a flat plate and you run a frequency through it. Cymatics is what it's called. Cymatic experiments. Now, in these experiments, you learn that each frequency or sound has a definite form or shape associated with it. Think about that and extrapolate your thoughts out to what that must mean. Each sound has a definite form associated with it. And this is proven through the cymatic experiments when they run the frequency through the plate. If you have sand or salt on the plate, each time you hit a specific frequency, it will create the shape of that frequency on that plate. Every time it'll do it. Proving that each frequency has a definite, sacred geometric shape that is associated with it. Now, the occultists have also extrapolated this out, and as they understand everything is a frequency, everything is a vibration, that everything also has a color associated with it. A certain frequency has a very specific shape associated with it, and a very specific color also associated with it. And this goes on and on. It's not just shapes and colors, it's literally everything. There's many stratifications to this. There's many analogies which layer on top of each other. So each frequency has a very specific shape, a very specific color, a very specific probably smell, if you could bring that out of it, a very specific feeling that it evokes, a very specific thought impression that it impresses upon the mind. So the more we think about these types of things, the more we must understand that every frequency being produced has some sort of impression that it's creating within us and within the greater reality. It's just kind of interesting to kind of think about and meditate on. Okay, and now, instead of a process of densification, let us imagine the reverse. We know that matter can pass through the most solid to the most rarefied states. Solid, liquid, gaseous. Matter can be subtilized to a point where we are led over to negative matter, Akasha. Events on Earth impress themselves into this Akashic substance and can be rediscovered there, even those which occurred in far remote ages of the past. Akashic Pictures are not static and immobile. They unroll before the eye of the seer as a living tableau where objects and persons move and even speak. The astral form of Dante would speak as he spoke in his own milieu. It is almost invariable this kind of image that is seen in spiritualistic seances where it is thought to be the spirit of the dead. Our task is to learn how to decipher the pages of this book of living images and to unroll the innumerable scrolls of the chronicle of the universe. This can only be done if we are able to distinguish between appearance and reality, between the human sheath and the living soul. Excuse me, still getting over this cold here. Daily discipline and long training are necessary if false interpretations are to be prevented. Definite answers to questions, for example, might be received from the form of Dante thus perceived, but they do not emanate from the individuality of Dante, for the individuality continues to evolve. They emanate from the ancient figure of Dante, the fixed in the etheric milieu of his time. So picture a sort of membrane that exists out there that is literally recording and capturing everything within the memory of nature. That is the claim that's being made. The fifth realm of Devacon is the sphere of heavenly harmony. The higher regions of Devacon are characterized by the fact that all sounds have a greater clarity, brilliance, and richness. In a mighty harmony, we hear the voice of all beings. This harmony was called by Pythagoras the music of the spheres. It is the living cosmic world. To the clairvoyant who has now become clairaudient, each being communicates his true name in a definite sound or tone. In Genesis, Jehovah takes the hand of Adam, and Adam gives all beings their names. On earth, the individual is lost among the crowd of other beings. In the highest sphere of Devacon, each being has his own particular sound, yet at the same time the initiate is united with all beings, becomes one with his environment. The initiate who has attained to this degree is called the swan. He hears the sound through which his master speaks to him and then communicates them to the world. The singing swan of Apollo brings to the ears of men the tones of the beyond. The swan is said to come from the land of the Hyperboreans, that is to say, the world where the sun sinks to rest from heaven. At this point, the initiate passes to a sphere beyond the world of stars. He no longer reads the Akashic records from the side of the earth, but from the side of the heavens. The Akashic record becomes the occult script of the stars, and the initiate experiences the primal source of the universe, of the Logos. In the myths, we find indications of this degree of the swan, notably in the Middle Ages in the Grail stories, which give expressions to experiences in the Devaconic world. All the exploits are there described are by Knights of the Grail, who represent the great spiritual impulses given to mankind by command of the Masters. The time when the Legend of the Grail was composed under the inspiration of high initiates is the age when the reign of the bourgeoisie began and when the movement connected with the freedom of great cities had its rise, coming from Scotland into England and thence to France and Germany. When he is a free citizen, man aspires unconsciously to truth and divine life. In the Legend of Lohingrin, Elsa represents the soul of man in the Middle Ages, striving to develop what is always expressed in occultism by a female figure. Lohingrin, the knight who comes from an unknown country, from the castle of the Holy Grail, to deliver Elsa, represents the master who is the bearer of the truth. He is the messenger of the initiate and is borne by the symbolic swan. The messenger of the great initiates is a swan. None may ask his true name nor whence he comes. His authority may not be doubted. By his words he must be believed. By the truth shining in his countenance he must be recognized. He who has not this faith is incapable of understanding, unworthy to listen. That is why Lohengrin forbids Elsa to ask his name and whence he comes. The swan is the Chela who bears the master. The disciple who has reached the 5th degree of initiation is sent by the master into the world. The Legend of Lohingrin is a description of events occurring in the higher worlds. The light of the Logos, the solar and planetary word, shines through the myths and the legends of the ages. And as you get more familiarized with the myths and legends of the ages, you will realize that there's several layers to the onion to peel back. Several different analogous interpretations of the same passage of the same story. Because that's how this universal pattern works. It's true on many different levels. It truly is a universal philosophy. And I look forward to unraveling a lot more of that with all of you in the future. Go ahead and hit the like, subscribe, share it. Let's try to grow this community into just an education community, esoteric education community. And if you got any suggestions, I have an occult library or an esoteric library that probably rivals many. I've been building this thing for years, so maybe around like 100 subscribers, I'll just go through and give a little video tour of my esoteric library, and then maybe if you guys have anything that's in your minds that you'd like to hear specifically, whether it be stuff from Alvin Boyd Kuhn, Manly P. Hall, various Masonic authors, more Rudolf Steiner, some Max Heindel, he's another really good Rosicrucian one, stuff from Blavatsky. I mean, I've got, you name it, I've probably got something by him if he's in the realm of esotericism. So yeah, go ahead, think about that. Leave me some comments in the comment section, and we'll interact. We'll get this thing going, and hopefully we can build a awesome community of esoteric education, because the world needs it. All right, guys, thanks again for listening. I'm going to get out of here. Take care, and I will talk to you guys next time.